I just cost a homeowner over $40,000. Things could have been different. They could have gone another way, but bottom line, I failed them. In today's video, I'm sharing the story behind what really happened, a $40,000 mistake, and the lesson that I wish that both I and the homeowner had have learned immediately, because maybe then we'd probably both be sleeping a little easier tonight. My hope is that by you watching this video, if you're selling your home, you're gonna learn something today that's gonna help you avoid making this same mistake for yourself, and that you never get talked into doing something that's gonna hurt you in the end. And if you're a home buyer, you're going to get some insight into how the mind of a home seller works and what opportunities inside there might lie. So, reluctantly forward, here we go. You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right. So I get this phone call from this gentleman looking to sell his home. Actually, at the time, I was on a road trip with my family to Tofino to take a well-needed couple-day break, catch some surf, get some sun, and really just enjoy our time together. I took the phone call in the car, and this gentleman, he was actually an introduction from a realtor friend of mine, someone who worked in the downtown Vancouver market who knew that they couldn't properly service his listing because it was in the areas that we service. If you're new to this channel, we service the Surrey and surrounding municipalities, anything around there, White Rock, that sort of thing. But they knew that they wouldn't be able to take care of him properly, and they really needed a local area expert to tell them what was going on, how to be successful, and also help manage the listing when it actually came to the market. Now, this man that called me, I'd never met him before, but just a really, really nice person. Really felt genuine, really was looking to do what was best for his family, and was in a little bit of a situation. They needed to get rid of this property. They needed to sell it in a reasonable amount of time. There was some circumstances outside of their control where they really just needed to free up some money and do it reasonably quickly. It was going to be better for the entire family and just made a lot of sense to do it at that time. Just as I was recommended to this gentleman, well, he was recommended to me, and I wanted to try and help my friend, the Vancouver real estate professional. So I agreed to meet with him. Now, because I was in Tofino, I couldn't personally go out there, see his property, meet him, and really talk about what was going on in great detail. So I sent my business partner, Adam, and Adam is excellent. Adam helps the majority of our buyers when they're trying to navigate the real estate market in the buying sense. He helps them research properties, view properties, and is just excellent at what he does. And he knows his stuff. So I sent Adam out to this gentleman's property to go take a look, and he was able to sit down with them. He was able to talk a little bit about what was going on, and he was also able to give him an opinion about his property. Now, they absolutely hit it off. They got along really, really great. What I would add, though, is like any typical home seller, they thought their property was unique, and it was. There were some really great things going on. There's some things that buyers would have loved about it, some things that made it really special, and some things that really deserve to be highlighted and broadcast to the world to try and help this family not only sell their home, but get the most amount of money for it. The other part of that conversation, though, was there was probably more commonalities to this property and what it was offering to a lot of other similar properties that they would have been competing against on the market at the time. While there was some uniqueness to it, there was a lot more that was kind of, I don't know, standard issue, not overly exciting because you could expect it in the next listing that you might go look at, and the one after that, and the one after that. And this is a common thing with home sellers. Everyone thinks their property is the best on the street, the best in the building. They've got the best outlook from their patio, whatever that might be. And sometimes that can be true. Sometimes it's not true. And I kind of compare it to the prettiest girl at the dance syndrome. This gentleman thought that his property was the absolute best that a buyer could do, and there was no other property that could ever compete to it. Therefore, it demanded just the biggest and best final outcome in terms of price, which is one of the main drivers of why he was actually selling in the first place. But don't forget, like, this needed to happen. This is something that he really had to get done. So after Adam and him had a chance to sit down, Adam reported back to me. And by this point, I had been able to get home from Tofino. We were only up there for a few days, but it was time to get back to this gentleman, just kind of let him know what the reality was with his property, what the market might bear. And the market at the time, This is about 4 months ago from the date of filming this. The market at the time, it was challenging, as it still remains today. Like, not many properties that were coming to the market at that time were actually selling. In fact, it was about 1 out of 12 properties that were hitting the market were actually transacting. Now, imagine that if you're a home buyer and you know that only 1 out of 12 homes that you look at is actually going to sell, that puts a lot of power into your pocket. And if you're a home seller and you're looking at selling your home, well, you've got to do everything you can to really woo that buyer. So, what naturally happens in markets like this, we call them a buyer's market condition, is that the buyer has all the choice in the world. So, the days on market start increasing for listings that are out there, and they don't have to make decisions very quickly. So, the sellers that are really wanting to sell, what they're going to do is they're going to put their properties in a position to help give the buyer an easier answer, meaning they're going to put their property in position to make the buyer so they don't think that they need to negotiate quite as hard, or it really sticks out. It's like, a big banner that says, "We're on sale compared to everybody else." They adjust their price and they put their price in a position that's going to cause it to sell. So I had to break the news to this home seller that his property wasn't quite as unique as he thought it was. And there was a lot of competition on the market at that time. And what would happen if he put the property on the market for what he was hoping to get is he simply not only would not get the number that he was looking for, but it would cause him to sit on the market and it would be quite detrimental to the overall sale. It would be really difficult to even get it sold. And he risked remaining on the market for a longer period of time, which meant he risked his overall outcome, his overall total sale price of what he would ultimately get it because of the market conditions, which typically don't change overnight. This was a really, really difficult conversation to go into. You want to do the best for these people and you want to be their champion. You want to help them accomplish what their goals are. And part of his goals was to get it sold, and part of his goals was to get the most amount of money. But to me, it's more important to be honest. And it's more important to be honest because that's going to allow them to be in a position to actually do what they need to do, what they want to do. And unfortunately, sometimes honesty, it's not the best policy. So telling this gentleman that we wouldn't be able to deliver on what he was looking for, he was heartbroken. He was upset. And there was a sense of frustration in there as well. Like, why is my property not as special as I think it is? Or why can't you get me what I'm looking for? Clearly, he was very emotionally attached to not only the price that he had thought of in his mind, but also his property. And this is pretty common for most homeowners. This is something that we see all the time. And sometimes it's really difficult for them to get outside of their own head and listen to the professionals that they called over to give them the advice. So, anyways, I had to break the news. I had to do it professionally, I had to do it calmly, and I had to put it into a position that was going to allow him to understand the gravity of what decisions he was about to make. I had told him the truth that the price he wanted was not going to fly, not with the competition that was on the market, not with what the market was doing, not with what choices the buyers had out there, and not with what the sales that had happened recently that were comparable to his really represented what his price should ultimately be. It was really hard to say. He was hopeful, he was excited, and that turned into disappointment pretty quick, as you can imagine. And the biggest enemy in this whole story was really what was happening with the market, just how difficult it was at the time to sell a home. Prices were actively sliding at this time. Inventory was rising and new homes were coming to the market each and every day that were undercutting the listings that had been sitting around. So while he was committed emotionally to his property and his price, the market didn't care. The market doesn't care. The buyers don't care. They don't have any emotional attachment to the properties they're looking at. They just care about getting the best value for their money that's possible. So we had the hard conversation. I gave him the full rundown on everything that he needed to know to be successful and in an honest and truthful. And I did this because I truly believe that it would help him make the best decision that would serve him and his family. This reminds me of something that is just so critical in today's market. When he was left with making this decision, there's really two types of sellers that you see on the market right now. And if you're a buyer watching this, I really hope this resonates and lands with you. There's sellers who are interested in selling their home, and there's sellers who are committed to selling their home. And those are two very different things. I've talked about this on this channel many, many times. And really what that means is we'll call them the tire kickers, the ones that just want to put their home on the market to see what happens. And there's the ones that will put their home on the market and in a position to actually affect a sale. And those aren't the same things. So after getting this information, We left the conversation for him to digest, and a day goes by. Didn't hear anything. Another day goes by. So I follow up on the phone. No answer back. No phone call back. No return email. Anything like that. A couple more days go by, and the news that I wasn't hoping for myself, but more so for this gentleman who was in this position, was I saw the home come available on the market for sale. And it came available on the market for sale at the price that I had strongly recommended him against going after because it simply wasn't realistic, nor was it attainable. He decided to list his property with somebody who would tell him exactly what he wanted to hear versus what he needed to hear, what would help him get into a position to actually accomplish what he was trying to do. There's this terrible thought in the real estate industry, and it's not one that we operate under. We really hope to put people in a position so they can actually get done what they want to do. But what the thought is that whenever you're listing a property for sale, it's about getting the listing sometimes. And the idea that you can't reduce the price of a listing to bring it into a more reasonable spot, you can't reduce the price of a listing that you don't have. So what you could see at times is people placating a home seller saying, no problem, we can get you that number, not an issue. And then only to come back 30, 45, 60 days later and say, well, look, hey, the market has really showed us that this isn't reasonable. This isn't going to fly. So your choices are to remain on the market, keep getting a similar result to what you're getting, or to adjust your value into, something a little more attractive that the market will bear. What the buyers are telling us is they're not prepared to pay what you're asking for your property. So an adjustment would likely get it in front of some new eyes, get some more action, and really get it into a position where it can cause it to sell. And here's the twist. Because now it was out of my hands and into somebody else's, all I could do was really sit back and watch to see what happened. This is where we fast forward to today, right now, the day of filming this video, where that same listing is still sitting on the market 4 months later. But that's not the only piece of the story that's obviously probably very frustrating for that home seller. But here's the really disappointing piece of this story, and a learning lesson for me and a learning lesson for you watching this at home. The price that listing is actually being offered for now has come down. There has been a price adjustment after 4 months. And that price adjustment is for the amount of $60,000. Now, if you remember back at earlier in the video, I had confessed that I had cost these people $40,000. And now I'm telling you that the price has come down over $60,000. So why am I confessing to being an accomplice to them losing money? And why is the 40,000 versus 60,000 so important? Well, the truth of the matter is, regardless of what their decision was, in a way, I failed. I failed to give them the information that they needed to be successful, or better yet, it wasn't the information that I failed to give them. It was the perspective on the information and the risks of what they were wanting to do versus the rewards of doing it properly right from the get-go and placing the price in an area that would cause that property to sell. Had this home seller priced their home in the recommended spot based on everything we knew about what was happening with the market, buyers, competition, etc., their home would be sold by now. And it would be sold for an amount that's higher than where their current asking price is, still sitting on the market, still trying to attract a buyer, and likely about to get beat up should a buyer want to buy that property because of the amount of time it's been sitting there. I should have fought harder for them. I should have fought harder to help them gain the perspective of the massive amount of money and time and frustration that they would experience over the course of 4 months, needing to sell, wanting to free up those funds, hoping to move their family over to the next adventure. I could have saved them from all that had I had been more effective at the time, helping them understand just how bad the decision would have been to have listed their property where they chose to originally. And that, truthfully, it's not their fault, it's my fault. And this is the lesson that in my business I'm going to take away, where I know that we want to continue to remain truthful with the people that we work with and the people that we serve and the people that we help, whether they're buying a home or selling a home. But it's also to fight harder for what we believe in, to make sure that we can help people make decisions that are going to best serve them. So, the takeaway from all this is if you're thinking of selling your home, you need to ask good questions. And you also need to remove yourself emotionally from your property and look at it through the eyes of a home buyer, not a home seller, not somebody who's got memories of the home and who puts a price on the fact that they painted a wall 2 years ago and the living room looks better. Buyers only care about value. They care about what they're going to get and what they're going to pay. And if you can look at your property through the lens of a buyer, you will be successful. Don't get emotionally hung up on what you want to hear because there's always somebody out there who will tell you what you want to hear. They will placate to you. They will offer you word for word exactly what you want to hear. So they have an opportunity to do business with you. But this is where you might consider to work with somebody who tells you the truth, not just what makes you feel good in the moment. Be realistic, be curious, and leave the emotion completely out of it because I can tell you for a fact that the buyers absolutely will do that. And if I could go back in time, as I said, I would have fought harder for this seller because even if I couldn't help him get what he wanted, I could have certainly helped him avoid the position that he is stuck in right now. This was a little bit of a different video today, and I'm curious in the comments below, what do you think that I could have done differently to help this gentleman be successful? And of course, if you're someone who is considering either selling a home in our marketplace or buying a home in our marketplace, there is a link below in the description to book a call with me and my team, and we'll do exactly what we did for the gentleman in today's video. We'll give you the honest truth about what you need to do to be successful and also let you know what we can do to help you move forward. And now, if you're a home buyer watching this video, I want to give you one more piece of advice. And actually, that's much more advice than just one piece because the video coming up next, if buying a home is new to you, the video coming up next is the exact presentation that we give to people just like you every day looking to buy a home in our marketplace to help them avoid the pitfalls that might be coming up, to help them avoid spending money unnecessarily, and to help them understand how this whole ecosystem of buying or selling real estate really works, to put them in a position to really be as successful as possible. If you're interested in that, I'll see you over on that video right now. Home, you really never know who is giving you advice. And that could be true for somebody like me, where you're watching this on YouTube, but that can also be true for any real estate professional in the province of British Columbia.